welcome to a special edition of the Marion Star Live. I'm Bill Swinford. Normally you'd have Riley and Rachel here bringing you a roundup of the week's news, but tonight we're doing something a little different. We're sharing with you a special conversation we got to have with two men who we appreciate very much for their support of the community and our region. One is Mayor Mike Absher, who has spent the past week as an intermediary in a conflict between a student athlete, her family and supporters, and the Marion High School administration. The mayor could have ignored the protest and stayed clear of the fray, but instead he has chosen to see what he could do to help. His involvement has been responded to with both appreciation and anger, but he tells me, as mayor and a former school board president, he had to try to help any way he can. The other is Dr. Lawrence Hatchett, a board-certified urologist. Dr. Hatchett is a very busy man who still takes time to support local causes and gives back to the community. He is also a longtime supporter of my own sons and the AAU basketball program they operate, the Southern Illinois Select. Dr. Hatchett is a former Division I athlete who played college basketball with legendary player and coach Doc Rivers, and he now has a son who is a student athlete at Marion High School. As a man who has been impacted his entire life by coaches, and who also cares about the atmosphere at this school, he has a special interest in this conflict and wanted to share his thoughts with the mayor and all of us. We think you will find this conversation worthy of your time, so please stay with us for this edition of the Marion Star Live.
Now live from Swinford Media Group. The Marion Star, where Marion is the star.
Hello and welcome to the Marion Star Live. I'm Bill Swinford. I'm here at Marion High School, and as many of you know, this has been the center of a controversy over the past week. It began when a sister of a student athlete shared a post on social media concerning the girls' track coach, Sarah Baker, after Mrs. Baker made a remark to the student athlete which has been quoted in many variations for more than a week now. We do know the remark alluded to the fact that the athlete and at least one other were running barefoot, similar to a runner from an African third world country, the coach reportedly said. While we still don't know exactly what was said, the remark and the coach have been labeled as racist by some. Others have called the remark insensitive at best. Others have argued that the remark was harmless. We've been told by this administration that Coach Baker met with a student athlete and has apologized, but some supporters of the student say the apology was less than sincere, and daily protests began last Monday here at the school, proving disruptive to the point that students were told to stay home last Thursday and Friday. Some are raising their voices to call for Mrs. Baker's dismissal. Others are rallying to her defense with counter-arguments on social media pointing out that the coach bought one of the athletes involved a new pair of running shoes, and that she has supported other athletes of all races on and off the track over the years. So when we were asked to record a conversation Friday between Dr. Lawrence Hatchett, an African American whose son attends and plays sports at Marion High School, and Mayor Mike Absher, we were interested in what they both had to say. We think you will be also.
You're a damn racist white person, and I can't stand any of you. Because that's what happened to him the other day. Of course, I didn't mean that. Because I don't know anything about Mike Absher. But I do know that when we yell at people like that, nothing gets done.
One of my mentors told me something that I frankly struggle with to this day, as I think anybody would, but I try to constantly keep in mind, to your point about yelling when you're trying to affect change, is that we all need to be better when we ask questions to listen to learn instead of listening to respond. In other words, I think a lot of people ask questions of each other, but they're really just looking for their next response. They're not actually looking for the listening part, the what is the answer that I seek. And sort of related to what you described the other day to an extent, but they're not wanting, in many respects, in my opinion, to listen to anything, to learn anything about the situation, or to the extent that any of us know at that point, particularly, but just to create their next response, their next yelling or whatever. And so it's tough in those situations when you're angry to listen to learn instead of listening to respond. But that's one.
So once again, why are we here? We're here because we have a situation in our high school with a coach and an athlete. I will tell you as an athlete, and I will tell you as a doctor, that we make mistakes. I'm a physician who was trained so well, but I've made mistakes in my career. You know what we're taught to do? We're taught to say, I'm sorry, have empathy, I'm sorry. But I made a mistake. We have a situation in our high school that has brought you into the picture, has brought all of us into this picture. It's brought my son into the picture. It's brought other people's children to the picture. And yes, my son is at that high school. We can handle, I think, a lot of things by just doing what we're doing right now. I don't even know this man. But I'm trying to say, we don't know what it means to be white or black or whatever, but that's how you start off, I think, a conversation if you really want to make a point. I don't know how it means to be a white male in America, but I'm here to listen. What I'd like to see happen, and because I'm going to say a few things here, people, why did I pull myself into this? I don't know. Because I want to do something. Because I grew up in Illinois, and by all statistics, I should not have been a Harvard graduate, but I was fortunate. And I'm here to hopefully say to a lot of I'm just going to say poor kids in Illinois. I'm not even going to break it down into white and black, or Mexican, or any other nationality. We have a lot of poverty. We have a lot of apathy in this Illinois. We got to rise. Somehow we got to get some people to motivate and change things. So I'm here to say, hopefully, if people wish to listen, I hope the end game in this situation in our high school is that we retain a coach. If I would have lost Coach McDougall in the midst of my high school experience, my life would have been, I don't think, the same. A coach means everything, but also, like I say, players only love when they're playing, You have to listen to a coach, but also a coach has to listen to the players as well. And I hope we have a situation we can resolve here where I want that coach to stay, and I want that athlete to still be a great track athlete. And I think that's what we want. I hope. Again, we don't know the situations, we don't know specifics, but we do know that things are out of control, and I don't want violence in our community. There are a lot of mistakes being made by a lot of different groups of people in this country. And it's going to happen in our community. But as you can see, Mayor Absher and I can agree on certain things that are unacceptable. Because they're what? It's violent. It's disrespectful. Nobody should be yelling in your face and expecting you to understand their point of view.
We'll be back with more of the conversation after these messages.
Swinford Media and the Marion Star are proud to have the Watermark Auto Group as a sponsor of all our digital programming.
Swinford Media and the Marion Star appreciate the support of the Arcadia Wealth Group, which is sponsoring Wildcat Wednesdays and our Turning Back Time segments. Welcome back to this special edition of the Marion Star Live. I'm Bill Swinford. We're in the middle of a conversation with Dr. Lawrence Hatchett and Mayor Mike Absher about the controversy that has swirled around Marion High School over this past week. In addition to asking us to record the conversation, Dr. Hatchett also shared some other thoughts with us in a Zoom. We'll share those now and then return to the dialogue with the mayor.
I'll ask the question to, let's say, white people. Sometimes, have you been the Jackie Robinson of anything in your life? Have you been the only one? Have you been the first? So I'd say that to the teacher in this situation. To the young lady, the athlete, you know what? That coach may have done you the biggest favor of your life and you don't even realize it. You're angry, or at least maybe you're not angry, but you have a lot of angry people around you. What do you do with anger? Do you just fester? Because uncontrolled anger is a killer. It's destructive. But if you want to prove to people that, hey, I'm going to rise above this whole thing, then use this situation to say, I am going to be the ideal athlete. I'm going to train harder than anyone. I'm going to make it to the next level. I'm going to go to college and be a student athlete. This situation, if used properly, could fuel you to the next level, the next level, the next level. Or you could just stay right where you are and blame people. Because I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to last very long. It's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to have a lot of battle scars in life, no matter who you are. I have them. You can't see them because they're here. I've lived through some very racially difficult decisions. I say decisions in my life. How to react to what I'm going to say is ignorance. I made some points earlier that at times we always want to say, you don't know how it feels to be black. But then you need to also recognize that I don't know how it feels to be, as I said before, white or female, Mexican American, Asian American, Jewish American. No, I don't. I also say to people, don't ask us to forget about racism. Don't ask us to forget about slavery. That's like asking a Jewish person to say, oh, the Holocaust, my God, are you still holding me accountable for that? I had nothing to do with it. Be a little bit more sensitive about certain things. I'm going to give a shout out to the people that coach changed something in their life. I'm sure this teacher has done amazing things for people in their life. If you are sitting there being quiet on the sidelines, then that's wrong. She had your back. If she did good in your life, you should have her back. One of my biggest disappointments coming back to Southern Illinois is there's so few. So few African Americans in positions of authority, of leadership. But here is the big conundrum. Who's at fault? That's a hot tomato, because all I will say is my parents were the greatest influence in my life, and parents, it starts there, it ends there. Teachers fill in the gaps. Coaches can be amazing. But if there's not enough blacks in leadership, ask yourself before you point a finger, are you pushing yourself to the fullest you can? Because I had to. My father came to me in 8th grade and said, I am broke. I don't have any money. I made basketball my ticket. And a lot of kids, sports is their only ticket. That's why I'm here today, because I said a coach can be the most influential person in a child's life. As much as teachers would like it to be the math teacher and the, science teacher, it's the coach. In so many ways, coaches are so powerful. They have so many power. But we also have to say that the coach in this situation used phrases and said some things that it just didn't come out right. Would you agree with that?
I've heard several versions, so I think in general, yes, I'd agree with it. I still don't know exactly what. One, I have to predicate my remarks that, again, I'm not in the command structure of the school district. This is a school district issue. That I have my opinions, too, from what we know. I think context and is important. I can't follow the argument that if I use the word, words matter, right?
Words do matter.
Words matter. They matter to maybe more than ever, and maybe that's why we're here. But if they matter, then specific words matter, and the context of them matter. You've used some of the words today that have been alleged to be words. They're just words. You spoke them in context. I don't know that I could say that you're a racist because you use that word specifically. It would have to do with the context, right? I would think. So one of the things that I'm pretty sure is a fact, to give you an example, let's get away, though, from the words for just a moment. Because that I don't know the exact, and we have heard several different versions. My understanding, that I believe to be a fact, is that the coach that was involved in this, the next day after this incident, went and bought one of the two girls that I believe that this was spoken to a new pair of shoes out of concern that they were running barefoot, which apparently is what instigated the comment. I don't see how racism to me is hate-filled. You have to have hate in your heart, regardless of a word that you use. To me, it would seem, maybe it's a terrible, I don't know. Do you think, would you agree with that to be racist you have to be hateful, that you'd have to hate somebody to be racist, or think poorly of somebody to be racist? Because of or any prejudicial remark, whether it was against a woman, whether it was against somebody's sexual orientation or gender or race, wouldn't you'd have to hate that or think less of that person or that situation to be called that way, right? To be prejudiced?
Keep on going back to my high school coach, Coach McDougall. I never heard that man say a swear word in his life, but at halftime when we were doing horrible, here's what he used to say: "You're playing like a bunch of sissies out there right now." Now, if you said that word now, sissy, wait, are you calling us gay? You're calling us, the point, words do matter, but they matter in the context of what era we're in right now.
Sure.
I live in a very litigious world, okay, living as a doctor. I have to worry about people walking out of my door even if they fall. Mm-hmm. Okay, even if a person cancels their appointment and it turns out they have bladder cancer later on, I can actually still get sued. So sometime when a coach may just say something like, stop wearing barefoot. Because if people get injured even on property now these days, so there's so much worry about everything. But the point is, as you say, from what I've heard about this coach and what I've heard about the young lady, two good people, okay? But then there's outside forces.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, Dr. Lawrence Hatchett has been a friend of our family for several years and a supporter of an AAU basketball program run by my sons.
We also have a close mutual friend. This is Sharif Kanute, a native of Mali, Africa, considered by most to be a, quote, third world country. Sharif moved to America 4 years ago to play basketball and pursue an education in the States. My family has known him for most of that time, and you might know him as well, as he has lived with my family in Marion off and on during those years. Sharif met Dr. Hatchett at the Hub Recreation Center, and the two developed a friendship. The doctor has provided friendship and financial help to Sharif and continues to take a strong interest in his welfare. The African wall hanging in this photo was a gift from Sharif to the doctor, so it hangs in Dr. Hatchett's office today. During his time living with our family, Sharif has learned that our family is just like any other. We're not perfect, we don't always get along perfectly, But one of the reasons my wife Kim and I have been married now for 33 years is that we've learned to care about each other's feelings more than our own, and we've learned we don't always have to be right.
Now, that's not an easy lesson to learn, and it's still hard for my wife and I to practice, but sometimes you have to lay aside who is right in an argument in order to maintain that relationship.
This current conflict at Marion High School has included lots of harsh words and labeling of others, both during the protest and on social media comments. As too often happens, it has become us versus them. On a recent webcast of their regular dialogues on this and other issues, former Marion High School student-athletes Michael Neal and Brandon Woods addressed the animosity that too often accompanies conflicts between people of different backgrounds.
Like I said, hey, harden the skin a little bit. There's going to be some tough conversations, especially once you start diving into history, especially once you start tying in political ideology, if we're being real. But like it's the only way we're like this isn't going to happen again. We can move forward as a country, and finally, and like you said, Mike, we can break the generational curse of having to have our kids grow up a little bit quicker. You know,
and I do want to address our community or just minorities. We got to stop throwing the racist word around so freely. So freely. It's like as soon as something happens, it's the first word that's out of our mouth. That person's racist. We're labeling them so quickly, and we don't want to be labeled that quick. Like, we may say something that is inappropriate, and we were just taught that. You know, I'm not even gonna go into that, but some things we were saying, we say things that are inappropriate, and we don't want to be labeled as like somebody who is homophobic. You know, I might say something that is very homosexual, like anti-homosexuality. I don't want to be seen as somebody who hates people who are of the LGBTQ plus lifestyle.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we should just brand people racist. We should have a conversation before we even jump to that conclusion. A conversation has to be had. Let's handle this at the lowest level first before we come for somebody's job, livelihood, and all of that. Let's have an understanding. Let's talk. And then if you don't show any remorse, you don't see what you did wrong, okay, let's take the next step. You obviously are hard-headed and you're not listening, so then let's go that route.
We couldn't agree more with what Brandon and Michael had to say. You can find that conversation shared on the Marion Star's Facebook, and we strongly encourage you to follow them on their own page called From the Heart for the Heart. We're going to leave you with something else we strongly encourage. Taquan Adams, who you see in our opener each week, is a Marion High School student who is helping organize a time of prayer around the flagpole for his fellow students. Calling it the recipe of all healing, the students are planning to meet at 8 a.m. tomorrow, Monday, for prayer. We encourage students who are believers to join them in one accord. If in-person learning is canceled again, the event will be rescheduled.
So to answer your question, yeah, I think that from right here, we want resolution for both people. We don't want to say there was right or wrong done. There was a misunderstanding. Words didn't come out right. Other people didn't understand it. And I think that's why we're here today. I'm not defending one side or the other. I have, no dog, like I said, in this fight, except I want to protect my son who goes to that school. I don't want him involved in what's happening right now. There is collateral damage that is happening regardless of what people's good intentions are or bad intentions are. In our community, there's collateral damage. And it's happening to my son, his friends, other people. And this is called, I guess, now the cancel culture, which again is being used a lot by white Americans, but I now can understand that if I worked my career and someone made one comment, I would hope I'd at least have a chance to say, well, that's not exactly how it happened, before you make me move and such.
Well, one thing, to mention, again, which is what you're talking about, collateral damage. The saddest thing is the collateral damage part, and I view collateral damage as those that are affected that weren't involved.
Right.
That's the definition, I think. And, you remove from the situation just slightly, and guilty or not, which is going to be a subjective, there's not going to be an objective finding, I don't believe. It's going to be subjective. Some people are not going to be satisfied one way or the other. That's sort of the world I live in now. I mean, I get it. And you can understand that. So there's not going to be an objective thing as yes it was or yes it wasn't or whatever. But the tactics that are being used, and I use that word specifically, the tactics that are being used. I don't know all the terminology, the new buzzwords, as far as documenting things online where people live, threats to people's kids.
That's unacceptable.
A police officer that's being yelled at and spat at and asked if he has children that they can beat up.
Unacceptable.
These tactics are absolutely counterproductive to what they say, the protesters say their goal is. And if that goal is to get the teacher terminated, those things are unacceptable to reach that end. That's collateral damage. That police officer that was being abused, in my opinion, really didn't have anything to do with this situation. He was there trying to make sure that the students could exit the parking lot safely. And to have your own kids threatened like that is so counterproductive to the whole conversation. It is prejudicial.
That is prejudicial in those situations. I agree with everything you just said.
So I would, I don't know who the audience is here, and so I'm not sure whether the protesters themselves will listen to it or certainly heed that advice, but it's not constructive. It's destructive. It causes collateral damage, and it causes other people that really don't necessarily have a direct input to this to have a stake in the game. Now they feel threatened. They feel like, and that maybe causes some prejudicial feelings towards somebody else because now they're being affected and they didn't have anything to do with it. I'm asking for this. The school system needs some time to figure this out. It's not that we keep using this term, but it's true. It's due process. The teacher has rights. I'm disappointed. Let me be careful what I say. I'm not saying that the school system is wrong in this. I think they have to follow their procedures. I want to hear the other side of the story. I want to know what she said, what she meant, what I believe, and is that there's more to this, that there is context to this. But regardless, we don't threaten people online. Trial by Facebook is not what our country should be about. Whether you like that outcome or whether we don't like the outcome of whatever happens, I don't believe we should be threatening people on Facebook and shredding their character and putting false things up there about their character. No one would want that done to them, no matter the circumstances.
He who's been perfect or done no wrong, then you throw the first stone. If we are going to base everything on perfection, I want to fire every single person listening right now. Everybody's out of a job. Every athlete, you're off the team. If that is now the standard, you're done. We're all done. No perfection on this earth that I know of.
Good point.
If you stayed with us until the end tonight, thank you for your interest in this subject, and thank you for listening to Dr. Lawrence Hatchett, Mayor Absher, and the others who have shared their thoughts on this program.
We'll be back soon with one of our regular editions of the Marion Star Live, and the Marion Star and its sister papers are now on newsstands with coverage of this and other news, and another edition will hit the stands this Thursday. We hope you'll like and share this post so others can be exposed to the conversation, and we always hope you'll follow us on Facebook and the Swinford Media Group's YouTube channel.
Until next time, I'm Bill Swinford. Live in peace and have a great week ahead. Good night.
The proceeding has been a production of the Marion Star Live. The material may not be reproduced. distributed, transmitted, or otherwise used without the prior written consent of Swinford Publications, LLC.